Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone who is tuning in so much for being with us this Sunday morning for our worship. Also, thank you for all coming. It is a great day to be here, and we are glad to see one another and worship together at this time. Some people love to play these games where you look at kind of a picture and there's hidden objects, and you have to find the various objects in the game. And you can play this game, and there's always some objects that jump out at you very quickly, and you find them almost instantly. They seem to just catch your attention. But then as you kind of catch the easy objects, there's always some objects that are hard. And you will search, and you will search, and you can't find them. You start to become frustrated, so then you kind of break down the picture into small little segments, and you go through the entire picture. And then once you finally see the picture you're looking for, you're kind of shocked that you haven't seen it the entire time. It's been there right in front of your eyes, but then once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And you can see it every time you look into the picture. This is what happens to Lazarus and the rich man. You have this rich man, and every single day he walks by this poor man, Lazarus, and never notices him. It's because we sometimes take in too little information, or we take in too much information. It's called having a blind spot, where you do not see what is there in front of your eyes. There's so many other pieces of information that your mind overlooks it, and you don't realize it's right there in your view. You see this in various experiments where they have a video, and there's this video of people passing the ball around, and they tell you to count how many times they pass the basketball. And in the middle of the video, there's this person who walks through all of the action in a gorilla suit, and then people say, "Did you see the gorilla?" And they say, "What gorilla?" It's because they missed it. You can miss exactly what is right before your eyes. That's what the rich man does in this famous parable. This parable is typically discussed when we look at heaven and hell, the afterlife, and people use this parable to kind of debate what the afterlife looks like. Typically in the church, we preach this parable to the perspective of the rich man. We always preach it, and we talk about the rich man and how he needs to be more giving, how he shouldn't overlook the poor people. And we always look at it through the perspective of what it's like to be rich. But have you ever looked at this perspective from the perspective of the poor man? Have you ever heard it preached and what the poor man was going through? We just automatically assume that the lesson should be for the rich man. But no, there's a lesson quite powerfully that you'll see at the very end of the sermon for the poor man. Let's look at this famous parable. Luke chapter 16, verse 19 to 27. There was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, and who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate was laid a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who desired to be fed from what fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, even the dogs came and licked his sores. The poor man died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried, and in Hades, being in torment, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus at his side. And he called out, "Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus to dip the end of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in anguish in this flame." But Abraham said, "Child, remember that you in your lifetime received your good things, and Lazarus in like manner bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in anguish. And besides all this, between us and you a great chasm has been fixed in order that those who would pass from here to you may not be able to, and none may cross from there to us. And he said, then I beg you, Father, send him to my father's house. The story starts off with Luke chapter 16, verse 19 to 20. There was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate was laid a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores. What's interesting about this is in our society, we typically focus on the rich. If you were to name me certain rich people, you would recognize their names. If I was to say Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, you would know who those individuals are. But if I was to say Mary Smith or Bart Warren, that would mean nothing to you. It's because in our society, we know the names of rich people. Poor people, we don't bother knowing their names, and we don't write articles about them. When we talk about the poor, we mention the poor. The poor are always mentioned as a group, as kind of a group in society, but the rich, we name them by name. But not in this text. God lets us know that he knows Lazarus by name. That in this text, he is not some faceless person who is a mere street beggar. He is named by God, but the rich man, he is just another person. But this rich man lives quite well. You have Lazarus who has nothing, and the rich man, he has an abundance. This is not your type of rich man who is treating himself at Christmas or likes to have nice birthday parties. This is the rich man that spends and lives just to feed himself. It goes back to Amos chapter 6, verse 4 to 7. Woe to those who lie on beds of ivory and stretch themselves out on their couches, and eat lambs from the flock and calves from the midst of the stall, who sing idle songs to the sound of the harp, and like David invent for themselves instruments of music, who drink wine in bowls and anoint themselves with the finest oils, but are not grieved over the ruin of Joseph. Therefore they shall now be the first of those who go into exile, and the revelry of those who stretch themselves out shall pass away. There's a big difference in having somebody who likes to treat themselves well every now and then, and somebody who just every single day feeds themselves and lives in luxury. And imagine if you are Lazarus watching this every day. You are sitting there needing any type of help. You would take anything. This is what Luke 16:21 says. Who desire to be fed with what fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, even the dogs came and licked his sores. The poor man, Lazarus, would have taken anything, even the table scraps from the rich man would have been a blessing to the poor man. But the rich man didn't even notice him, didn't even think about helping him out. His least amount of gifts, anything would have been better than nothing. And the dogs did more for this man than the rich man did. The dogs at least came and licked his sores. Now, I know most of you know I'm not a big dog fan. This is the one time in the Bible the dogs look good. But rich people don't even take the time to notice that this poor man could have been helped in any way. Any good would have been good enough. But there you are, poor, just being overlooked. Sometimes when we think about hatred, We think that's the opposite of love. But that's not the opposite of love. At least if someone hates you, they actually think about you. The opposite of love is apathy. You're not even acknowledged. You don't even exist. You're not even important. You're just overlooked. And this poor Lazarus every day had to feel overlooked. Have you ever felt that way in your life? Maybe it was in school. You had popular kids, and they didn't even know that you lived, that you even went to that school. Maybe you feel that way at work. You're there, you work every day, but it doesn't seem like anybody ever notices. Maybe you feel it in church sometimes. Maybe you wonder, am I even important here? Do people even care that I come? Do people care that I'm a member of this congregation? I think we have all felt overlooked in life. We have all felt that we were invisible. That's a terrible feeling to have. You almost want somebody to respond. I'm here. I'm a person. That's what the poor man felt like every day as this rich man walked on by and never even looked down. You talk about one of the small kindnesses in life is tipping. I was looking up an article about famous bad tippers. Now imagine you are working in a restaurant and some famous person comes in, and now you're kind of excited. They bring maybe their friends and they spend like $300, $500. And you are sitting there thinking, this is going to be a great tip. You're going to give good service. You're excited about this. And all of a sudden, Tiger Woods, who's famous for being a bad tipper, comes in and doesn't tip you anything. Or tips you like $30. Yay! The guy's a multimillionaire. You think he could spare another $30. It's a small sacrifice for him, but it would be a huge blessing to the person who's serving. The other picture is Rachel Ray. The people I know that have worked in food service, I worked at KFC, but I never got tips. She's known for being a bad tipper. You would think somebody who works in food service or cooks would tip well because you understand this is their livelihood. But have you ever noticed yourself not really showing importance to somebody who would really take any blessing? That we just overlook some of the people in our lives because we don't focus in on them and what they're going through in life. When we think about Jesus, we usually focus on Jesus about how he was crucified, he was mocked, he was spit on, he was ridiculed. And we always highlight the big stuff, the big rudenesses, the big insults, all of the poor treatment that he endured at the hands of humanity. But I think sometimes it's good to know that Jesus was a carpenter who worked in his family business. Now imagine being that customer that was rude to Jesus. You do not want to become a Christian and ended up believing in him, and then that was the boy that you were really misspeaking to, that you were just inconsiderate to, and that you weren't happy with his work, and so you insulted him, that you were mean to him, and you yelled at him. He was a carpenter. He probably understood people coming in with a sense of entitlement and that were mean to him. He dealt with everyday, small, little acts of unkindness and rudeness because they just didn't show him the sense of importance They weren't really trying to be mean. They just didn't spend the time caring enough to be nice. But notice what happens. This is amazing. Luke 16:24. And he called out, Father Abraham, have mercy on me and send Lazarus to dip the end of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in anguish in this flame. This rich man is now saying, I need Lazarus to help me. What a reversal. The man who is too good to even acknowledge the poor man now needs the poor man's help. Because he's suffering and he needs the man who he never even acknowledged existed, never gave him the time of day. He needs a favor. And then it continues. Think about this. You're that poor man, and the rich man needs you now. Look at Luke 16:27-28. And he said, then, I beg you, Father, to send him, Lazarus, to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, so that they may warn them, lest they also come into this place of torment. He needs him to dip his finger. That answer is no. So now he begs Abraham to send this poor man, Lazarus, to his family. What a sense of entitlement. To warn my brothers so they don't come here as well. He needs that Lazarus, the man that he never even pondered to do anything for him. He needs his help. But here's the question from the poor man's perspective. If you were Lazarus, and if you could go, would you go? Would you go and help the rich man? Or would you stick it to him? Would you say, serves you right? You got what was coming to you. I'm not helping you. You never helped me. You never did anything for me. You can look after your own problems now. Now that's a sign of true sacrifice. For you to help the person who has totally overlooked you your entire existence as you sat there outside of their house. Would you go? Would you go and help the person who never helped you? And that's what Jesus Christ did. Jesus came to earth while we were still worthless. He came while we were still enemies. He came to help us when we did not even help him. He went. You have an opportunity to respond to this message. That is true love, to help someone who would not help you. You have an opportunity to ponder that decision. If you will believe, confess, repent, be baptized for remission of your sins, rise up out of that water to newness of life. But be that person that even though people won't help you, you be the type of person that helps them. Why don't you ponder that as we stand and sing the invitation song?